Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Hello and welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast. It is the start of movie month, and I've got with me a new group of gal pals. And before we call quiet on set and roll camera on this production, let me introduce our cast of characters for this comedy podcast of horrors. I mean, inspiration! So first up, she is our resident artist and suffragette expert. She's coming at you with pins and paint. It's Bonnie Fillinsworth. Bonnie, what have you been up to lately?
I've been working on my women's history calendar.
Sweet.
I just finished a painting of Rear Admiral Grace Murray Hopper.
Yes. Oh, you were putting the Marie in there now.
Murray, yeah. And then
Nice.
I just had made a little 100th anniversary of the suffrage movement pin.
Ooh, because it's coming up next year.
Yeah. Counting down.
Fantastic. Love it. All right. Well, next up, I should say, she is our personal bake-off champion. She is a vocational service manager and an avid dream sharer. It's Katie Harris. Katie, what is new in your world?
I feel like I haven't had time for dreaming much lately.
Prioritize, girl.
It's been a busy fall getting the kiddo back to school and his birthday.
True.
I got to celebrate a friend that's getting married for her bachelorette party.
Awesome.
So just been keeping busy.
Baking things as you do.
Well, I tried today because it is the lovely Bonnie's birthday.
It is lovely Bonnie's birthday!
Yes.
I believe Bonnie has turned 23. Is that correct?
33.
All right, 33.
Yeah. We had to reschedule the podcast for my birthday because I got rear-ended last week.
We're glad you're okay.
On my way here, too.
As the motorcycle, apparently the motorcycle is also very glad you're okay. That's in the background.
Other time I got a flat tire. I'm just like, cursed,
This is true.
man.
No, because we need you
job.
here. Exactly. We need to do whatever juju we need to do to relieve the podcast cursing. No more. No more. Exactly. Next up, she is our leading lady. She's a SAG-AFTRA actress as well as a singer, a dancer, a stand-up comic, a photographer, and a video producer. It's Denise Jaeckel. And Denise, tell the good people more about yourself.
Well, I have been going back and forth to Chicago.
Fun.
A lot to audition. I know. To audition. And I do love the city. It's a great big town, in my opinion. And I've been doing a lot of auditioning up there and, getting called back. But always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Oh.
But my son, to talk about your kids, my son who graduated not too long ago in nuclear engineering from Purdue, has his first big time job interview. He's had a couple of phone interviews, but they flew him out to Connecticut, and he's out there. Oh my God, I'm so gonna cry.
Being an adult.
He's being an adult, and I'm so proud of him, and it's exactly what he needs to do. And I am going to miss him terribly when he moves away,
Right.
because he'll never call me.
You never know. You never know.
I know my son. He will never.
Will
call
he
me.
text? Maybe.
No.
No.
I even said to him the other day. I said, if you move away, I'll never see you again. He goes, "Yep."
Oh no!
Oh.
Oh no!
Yeah, I feel the love.
You know what?
Yeah,
Connecticut sounds like a cool place to travel to.
it really does.
Yeah, and you can
just
go through New York
after
City.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I see lots of trips there.
I'm just here in New York City.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
go pop in on my untexting, unphone calling
Oh
son.
yeah. Just put your clothes on. I don't want to know.
Exactly. Give them a good 2-minute warning. Be like, I'm in the neighborhood. Put some pants on, kid. So as for me, I am Dr. Leah Leach, the executive director of Gals Guide to the Galaxy, and it's movie month, or better known to me, the month where I connect what I do now, which is building a women's history library, with what I used to do, which is filmmaking. It's kind of fun to take the random movie knowledge that I have amassed over the decades and apply it to Gals Guide. We've got a pretty good collection of podcasts and articles about women in movies. We actually have on the site Wonder Woman's armpit controversy. It's one of our more popular articles. Geez, I wonder why. It's full of sarcasm. We also have a very in-depth article about Scott Pilgrim versus the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, which is a very, very good one. Reddit seems to really like this article on our site. We also have lists about movies with female friendships. And of course, we talk about the amazing film pioneers. Now, we've talked about pioneers like Alice Guy Blanchet, who created the narrative film. Before her, it was just film footage of workers leaving buildings or trains passing by. And she thought film could be more. So she made the first story movie on her lunch break. She went on to create many more staples in the film industry, like natural acting style and using sync sound. She also invented the music video. You know, just freaking brilliance, and of course not taught in any of my film classes. Oh, the irony. Another fantastic early film pioneer that we have covered on Gal's Guide is Dorothy Arzner. Now, she directed Clara Bow's first talkie, where she also created the boom mic. Very later in her life, she was actually Francis Ford Coppola's teacher. So, which is a nice little turn of events. Lois Weber was paid more and more popular than D.W. Griffith, yet we barely ever hear about her. And Margaret Booth was the film editor at MGM. So these are all great ladies that we have on our website. On this particular show, Katie has talked about a Dolly Parton, who was in what was that movie again? 9 to 5, I believe it was. Right. I had all the 9 to 5 puns going on there. She did music and movies, and Bonnie talked about the silent screen actress Alla Nazimova as well, with got all of us voting for Syphilis for her terrible, terrible father. He was starting to act weird. Nobody knew why, and she said, somebody thought it might be syphilis, and I jumped out, I vote for syphilis! And yes. We now have stickers in our shop available. So let's add to our Women in Movies collection, because there are many more amazing women to learn from and to shine a spotlight on. So, all right, my little Norma Desmonds, who is ready for their close-up? Is it the birthday girl?
I think the birthday girl's going first.
Birthday girl! So wait, who do you have for us, darling?
I watched a documentary on Kathleen Shannon, who is a filmmaker, Canadian filmmaker, who founded Studio D, which is the first and only government-funded feminist film-making unit in the world.
Crazy and awesome.
And it's no longer in existence, so I guess we're back down to zero.
Oh.
When was it founded?
Did I write that down? In 1974.
Oh, look at that.
You guys weren't even born then, were you?
Yeah, 77 for me. Yeah.
I'm the old lady here.
We really needed it in the 70s, because I know the 70s was terrible for women in Hollywood. There was a lawsuit that happened in that time period to get more women directors out there.
Really? I was unaware of that.
Yeah, there was a settlement, but it was they sued all 6 big studios for more. I will actually show you. I have it saved.
You need to send me this information.
It was a really good lawsuit, but it was settled out of court.
Oh.
So, but you can see what they charged against, and yeah, it was like the mid 70s when they were like, wait a second. This isn't right anymore.
Mm-hmm. And we're still dealing with it. But
right.
Hey,
but apparently Canada was willing to do something about it in the 70s.
Yeah, the documentary I watched is called Kathleen Shannon on Film, Feminism, and Other Dreams. And there will be a link to it in the show notes, because I found it on the internet for free.
Sweet.
But yeah, she herself made over 100 films and won 3 Academy Awards.
Nice.
In the documentary, she said, "Trust the wisdom of your own experience."
Ah.
That's a nice little quote. She moved 26 times before she was 16.
Oh, wow. Military kid or just gypsy? Like to move?
She had a little anecdote. I'm not saying that right.
Oh, anecdote?
Anecdote of when she was a girl. As a punishment, when she was about 10, her father pretended that she didn't exist. And she asked for a long time that she pretends it's about 6 months.
Oh my God.
What?
I think we're all in shock at this point. Wow, really?
What?
You know,
Therapy, anyone?
I vote syphilis for him too.
We're back to syphilis.
We gotta get shirts with that on it.
I know.
Is this
They are
shop?
available at our shop. Yep.
I vote for syphilis. That explains all men.
It's perfect.
But they did a review of vintage films for the government about women's lives. And like these old films, they're like kind of like those 1950s, like almost like sex ed films. Or
Do you have syphilis kind of videos?
Yeah,
and we're
they were kind of like
not
that.
getting out of this topic today.
But they're just talking like I'm not sure who exactly they were showing. I think they were on like their version of PBS.
Okay, gotcha.
And they would just be about women talking about it's men talking to women to what they think it's.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
1950s mansplaining.
Yes. About housework. And
because
things
they know
like
it
that.
so well.
But in one of them, they talked about, there was one about a woman talking to her doctor, expressing fears about becoming pregnant again.
Okay.
Because she already had 3 kids, and she's already overwhelmed, and she doesn't want any more. And the doctor is just kind of like, oh, don't worry about it. Like,
don't do anything.
Don't.
It'll be fine.
Just don't worry. Your husband knows. Like,
oh yeah, because that's all that matters.
We're just
if
gonna
you
trust
know,
him,
and he knows, it'll all be handled.
Like what?
Wow.
Yeah.
Good times.
Let's see. So in the 70s, she bought a book at a train station.
How dare she?
Prior
I'm just
to
kidding.
her train ride, as Voices from Women's Liberation.
Oh, nice.
And I added it to the wish list.
I was gonna say, I'm like, wait a minute, that's either on our wish list or in our library because it sounds really familiar.
I just added that. It's a 1970 book by Leslie V. Tanner, and the introduction is written from suffragists 100 years ago, and she was reading it, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this still applies today."
The same problems from 100 years previous. Great, sweet progress, slower than crap.
Yes.
So Bonnie, what was she doing with the old film footage you were just talking about?
I don't
was
know.
She just like revitalizing it?
I think she. I just remember
Laughing
it
at
came
it?
up in the documentary, and I was like, "What?"
Maybe that was her foot in the door.
I don't know.
Like,
I think they were like remaking them, maybe because they're talking about like because she talks about people. I don't know what the heck autocorrect changed that to.
Keeps life a mystery.
That things in our lives fascinate us, and so men have made like films and books and movies and all that about things that fascinate them. They're not really interested in women's experience, so they haven't done it.
Right.
So that's part of what like Studio D was doing.
They were trying to kind of take what they were doing in the 50s and kind of turn it on its head, basically. Possibly.
I don't know, because just men were not interested in having anything to do with women's films.
This
They
was in
weren't
the 50s,
interested.
Though. Yeah.
Well, she did this starting in 74 is when they founded Studio D.
Gotcha.
So women's experiences were not being talked about because the men who were making the films weren't interested, so they just weren't doing it.
Right.
Did they show footage of what she did for Studio D?
They have a list of her all the films that they did on there. I haven't watched them all. I hadn't heard of any of them. Scrolling down the list, I don't know if maybe.
I kind of briefly looked at it, but I think a lot of them, the equivalent to kind of think of it is PBS documentaries and PBS original miniseries here. It really depends on your local affiliate, and it's really kind of localized, and it's government paid for too. So,
yes,
you know.
It's government. I think they call it MFB.
Gotcha.
Maybe National
Film Bureau? I'm just guessing.
I don't know, but it sounded like it was their equivalent of PBS.
Gotcha. Or BBC 127, one of those sort of things. The government funded.
But this was back in the 70s that she did all this. And how relevant?
In the 70s,
it's still going on.
Well, it stopped in like the 90s or early 2000s, I think, is when it stopped.
Why?
Gotcha.
Do you have any idea? Does it say?
I think the government cut like funding, like it was a budget cut situation.
Well,
right.
But there's been researchers who have been archiving everything.
Oh, cool.
So hopefully it's being saved. She did a documentary, like she personally did a documentary on 6 different women from different countries on abortion. and purposely left out all the men experts.
I love that.
She
Nice.
left out theologians and just, like medical doctors, and she just focused on like the women's experience, like
Nice.
you know what they went through, and they didn't want to air it
Oh, really?
Wow.
because they said that they weren't showing the other side.
Oh.
And it's like the women's experience.
What the fuck is the other
Well,
side?
yeah.
Interesting, because last time I checked, it's not the dude who's carrying the baby. I could be wrong. I didn't watch the the instructional video where the man in the 1950s suit told me about it.
Wasn't there an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he has a baby?
Yes, and we all know that was very
Yeah.
real. He was also a twin to Danny DeVito,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like,
And wasn't Danny DeVito in the pregnancy movie too? I think I
it was
get those
twins.
two
Yeah,
mixed up. One where they're brothers. There's twins.
Right,
And
yeah.
I think the one with the pregnancy, I think Danny DeVito
I
is
think he
the
is,
doctor who like impregnates him.
probably.
So those two, and they both came out in like the 80s. Like those two movies are
I
just
know.
smushed.
Somebody thought it was
in my
hilarious.
brain.
Let's put this giant guy with this small guy, and it's like, oh, good, that's never been done before.
Oh, goodness. But yeah, Studio
Test.
New was shut down in 96.
96,
amidst a
okay.
sweeping set of federal government budget cuts.
Oh, okay, all right, fun.
Yeah, I had never heard of her, and
Mm-mm.
so,
No.
out in Canada, I don't get to hear much about
Right.
Canada besides my crazy nail art lady.
Oh, is she in Canada?
Yeah, she's in Simply Nailogical.
See, you know, I had to go like
She's
search
amazing.
for it too, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, because you talked about her last episode, and I searched all over YouTube, and I'm like, okay, because what was holographic? You said it was holographic
yeah,
nail
she's-
art. Did you know that she's not the only one that does
Oh,
it?
Oh, yeah.
So eventually I had to look,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no, I think I found her.
No,
I
what
think
you
I
need
found
to
her.
start out with is, I think what really got her going was a viral one like 3 years ago is Polish Mountain, which I think is what
Oh,
led
when
me.
you
I think YouTube
do
just,
the-
she just did
Oh.
layers. She did over 100 layers of nail polish.
to
And
see
she's
what
just
would
like,
happen.
we're going to Polish Mountain. And she's just talking while she's just doing. And
Is she
didn't.
smoking something at the
Wow.
time?
No.
Nail
okay.
polish. I
Oh,
mean,
my God, nail polish.
that will get you every
Yeah.
single time.
Well, I have a question. What do you guys think? I mean, maybe it's just me, but I look at the 70s and the way women, they didn't want to, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they just didn't care. They
Right.
were all about themselves. But that's the way the men were raised, and that's what women were taught to do, was to just to go along with it and be the helper and the sidekick.
They didn't see an alternative.
I don't
Yeah.
see that today. I mean, yeah, there's old
Right.
people that still do that, but the millennials, I got to tell you, I love millennials.
I do actually
I
too.
think
I go into schools and they give me hope.
Thank you.
these
No.
boys, these young men are
Yeah.
like, well, why wouldn't I want to hear about her?
Right,
You
exactly.
know, they're just like, they get it. And what has made the difference? How does that happen?
Right, exactly.
Is it people like her?
It's a possibility. The other thing that I've heard statistically is that a lot of single moms, being raised by single moms, being raised by strong women that are telling their sons and their daughters, you know, the same stories. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, this is how you do the dishes, son and daughter.
Yeah.
That it's, you know what I mean? It kind of comes from the house. Not always does it come from the school system, but sometimes it comes from, you know, the village that, you know, surrounds the kids. And also to a certain extent, it can come from the individual teachers. Because Gals Guide will go into schools and it's the individual teachers that seek us out and say, hey, Women's History Month, come in, do a presentation. And, you know, some of the kids, they'll start off and they'll just be like, oh, yeah, no, I just don't have to do this quiz or this assignment or whatever. And the next thing you know, they're actually answering my silly questions. So it kind of brings them in. It's like, oh, wait a minute. We've never heard this stuff before.
Yeah.
This is new.
And it's fascinating.
Exactly. Yes. Everybody wants to know how Wi-Fi was invented.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, these are awesome stories. So
Very cool.
yeah, I think it's a search for knowledge, and also with everything at our fingertips too.
I was going to say, how
Yeah.
much do you think being connected to the internet and articles and
Yep.
experiences and news and
You want to find
social
knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
media.
You
But
also want to find something different too.
You can also find things that reinforce beliefs that are not positive or progressive.
Yeah.
though,
Yeah,
so-
that's true.
Exactly.
Can you spell Fox News? I mean,
Exactly.
Is it F-U-C-K?
I think so.
Oh.
I think it is.
Oh,
Dun,
we've
dun,
crossed into
dun.
politics. I need more wine for this.
Exactly. No, she sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you have more little tidbits for us?
I think that is it. Because the documentary is about an hour long, and she's got a really short Wikipedia article.
Gotcha.
I didn't find any books on her or anything yet.
Right. Interesting.
So someone up in Canada needs to get on that.
Right, exactly.
She did die a few years ago.
Gotcha.
From,
All right.
I believe it was lung cancer. I think she went in to get surgery to get a tumor removed and died on the operating table.
Oh,
Oh.
no.
So and that was 2006 or 16, something like that. It wasn't too long ago.
Not too long ago. Gotcha.
Did they say if she was speaking of politics, was she a politically active person?
I didn't.
It sounds like she
see
really
Sounds like she
that.
would be.
I think
Yeah.
she ended up after she was done with doing filmmaking. It sounded like she got a cabin out in the woods and was a therapist
Oh.
or something like that.
Which I
think-
always think a lot of times filmmakers are. They're just doing
She
a different
seemed-
medium.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
They're trying to help you with a story, and
Uh-huh.
so
it
it's
seemed
makes sense.
she was kind of a like that one Robin Williams, like a Patch Adams kind of therapist.
Oh, I
kind
thought
of
you were
a
going
thing.
with the other one, Insomnia, where he turned into a killer at a cabin in the woods, and I went, wait, like a Patch Adams. Okay, I gotcha.
She's kind of like a hippy dippy lady, and
I like my
hanging
hippy
out in
dippy
the
ladies.
woods.
I represent my hippy
Well,
dippy ladies.
70s, that would make sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And her name again, so that we can all look her up.
It is Kathleen Shannon, and the documentary is called Kathleen Shannon on Film, Feminism, and Other Dreams.
Nice.
I googled I just googled documentaries on women in film, and that was one of the ones that came up.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
very cool. And we'll link it on the website too, so
Yes.
people can check it out and
Oh, yeah.
check out our list of stuff and go down that rabbit hole of what other stuff is out there. Sweet. Well, that wraps it up for us this week. And join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool thing as Gal's Guide to the Galaxy podcast continues. Thanks for listening. For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gal's Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.